So now I was down in South America for the first time in Santiago de Chile, and the plan was to spend about 3 months on the continent, travelling up through the Andes up to Quito, and then I'd fly out to the Galapagos, go back down to Santiago, and then out to Easter Island, and then back to Australia again on this big trip that I spent all my money on and had things booked in advance as well. So wasn't just like a backpacking thing. I had things planned out to a certain degree, but there's about 50% of the time I was going to be camping. So anyway, I was in Santiago, and I was with a small group of people, and we went out in the evening, and there was a band playing on the street, and with a big crowd around, and someone dropped a bottle, and it smashed a glass bottle, and the whole crowd turned around and looked at us, the foreigners there, the only foreigners there, and we kind of left shortly after that, because I think everyone was still in shock, basically, because the preceding violence that had happened in the years, not too long before, I think about 10 years prior. And it was the same when I went to Rwanda as well. There was still, you could feel a lot of tension in the air when I went there, and that was in 2010 as well, so quite a few years after all the violence there. But anyway, so the plan was to travel up. So we started to travel up the Andes, which is just desert down in Chile, and then they slowly rise up, and we rose up, of course, as well, and went through all the major locations that are fairly well known these days, but there just weren't many people around, like Sala de Uyuni, the salt flats there, and then through all the countries there as well: Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile, of course, Argentina, just into Salta, one small town where there's supposed to be a statue of the Virgin Mary that's shed tears, so people go there, or they used to go there to visit that. But it was just a surreal world for me, because it was a culmination of all my experience reading the National Geographics I'd read before, watching David Attenborough documentaries and stuff, and Indiana Jones and Romancing the Stone, and the Amazon itself, just the name, the Amazon, that was exciting to me, and the Andes, of course, and Machu Picchu, the Incas. So we were just following the Inca trail, really, spread of the Inca Empire. So that was amazing to me as well, because I had books on the history of the Incas and stuff, and so we went through past the ruins and through the Desert of the Moon and stuff, and then to El Tatio, I think it's called, at about 5,000 meters. That was the first time I went up to that kind of elevation, and it was good. I like to feel it. Just the penetrating cold that we felt in the morning. I think it was about -10 up there, and then we camped near Lake Titicaca as well one time, and it was -10, and I had a really good sleeping bag, but it did nothing, I think. And so I think it's better sometimes to have just one layer of thermals on and not too much inside a sleeping bag, so you can create a thermal layer rather than having tons of clothes and then everything just stays cold. That's kind of what happened to me. And I remember being out on Lake Titicaca and trying to play soccer, and I could only run for 10 seconds at a time. I could recover quickly, but yeah, I could only go for 10 seconds at a time, and it's only 4,000 meters or so there as well, not like 5,000 meters. But these days I can go up to higher elevations and I'm fine still. So going to Machu Picchu as well, I walked in there on the Inca Trail, and there weren't many people on there either. I think there were only 50 people on the trail. At that one time I went up Huayna Picchu as well, which is the peak, if you don't know, behind Machu Picchu. And these days you have to book in advance and all the rest of it, and there's only 200 people that can go up there a day or something like that. And just went straight up there, no one around or anything. And that was an amazing moment for me as well, at the Sun Gate, which is a gate that sits above Machu Picchu before you walk down and into the city itself. I sat up there with my camera looking through the viewfinder, the optical viewfinder, so I wasn't missing anything. And with an old SLR film camera, the optical viewfinders, it was much bigger and clearer because they had to be made so you could focus manual lenses with the viewfinder. But now, these days, with the digital cameras, then there's a compromise, so they're not quite as bright and not quite as sharp looking through the glass and stuff. But anyway, I was just sitting there looking at the mist going over, and I couldn't see anything at this stage, but at some point it just opened up and I saw Machu Picchu down below, and I took a photo, and then Huayna Picchu appeared behind it as well. And then I kept walking down a little bit later on and went into the site itself, and then climbing up Huayna Picchu as well. It's almost like a ladder of stairs, and if you just did one jump down, fall down to your death. And a guy did fall off there when we were there and died. And we also went rafting down the Urubamba River, and in Ecuador down a part of the Amazon River as well. And it was alive. It was alive with wildlife, hundreds of caiman, insects everywhere, just buzzing with insects, and you could feel just the density in the leaves and everything really. There was life everywhere, and there were giant otters that appeared and everything. But I've been into the Amazon through, 6 or 7 countries. Basically all the countries that link into the Amazon, I've been to them all, and I haven't really felt that kind of energy coming off the jungle since then. So we're talking now, 27 years later. So something's changed. The energy everywhere around the world, for me, has changed, I think. And just, it's interesting as well, just the increase in population, I suppose, and more people are travelling and everything, then maybe that just that simple thing has an effect as well, just pushing things back as well, because I just used to see a lot more insects everywhere. So going back again, in La Paz, that was another amazing place as well. It felt really different. There were protests going on when I was there. We had to go around protests, big piles of garbage and stuff, and piles of cash as well to pay for just a meal, a pile of cash like this, because the inflation was just crazy then. And I remember going to a bank as well, and there must have been a 14-year-old kid with a double-barreled shotgun there. So that was kind of an experience for me as well, seeing more weapons around. I wasn't used to that at all, but now I am, because there's soldiers. I see soldiers around and lots of people carrying weapons and stuff, and occasionally they'd be pointing at me as well, so they're not too careful about how they handle their weapons. But in terms of how I felt as well, I was still getting used to the camera and stuff, and still getting used to that. Well, I could take a photo, I suppose, but it was just, at first it was like I was talking about with the car. At first, you get the horizon level at least, and then you get things in focus as well, then you get your exposure right. And after that, then you start to work on personal compositions. Then after that, you start to shoot photos that have something of you in it, that your feelings, they start to penetrate the photos, and people can start to feel that as well. And it's interesting for me as well, because if I don't hear that from people, then I don't know. But sometimes people tell me that they feel these things, and I'm really happy to hear that, because I don't know if it translates sometimes, especially if it's just a screen as well. Sometimes it's easy if it's printed and it's huge and you can see all the details and everything, because on a screen you can't see the details, and I'm usually shooting for the details as well. So you need to blow things up to 100% to see all that stuff, but if something's printed you can see it in one hit. And out in Quito, that was amazing as well. I did feel a bit of the altitude then, I think, and walking around there through the old town and to the equator as well, just the line on the equator, that was pretty interesting. And so close to Colombia, just one border away, but I wouldn't be going back there for 12 years or so, 12 or 13 years. That's when I'd finally enter Colombia, and that was still a kind of a mystical place, or kind of a crazy place or something like that. And I don't know why, like I didn't go there at that time. But it's interesting when I finally did come here. So I went from Quito out to the Galapagos Islands, but first to Guayaquil. Had to go there to get a flight to the Galapagos, so I stayed there for a few days, and that was wild. Then I went up the top of a building, and I could see guys in pickup trucks, utes, with planks of wood. I don't know if they were ready to attack people or whatever, but I was just watching everything around. And I just went to a park as well, and someone told me off for putting my feet up on the bench or something like that. So there were rules in place too. And what I did, a technique that I use as well, then I went to a really good hotel and asked where a good cheap hotel was, because oftentimes then people who work in the good hotels, they've worked somewhere else prior, and they know like a cheaper place. So they told me a cheap place. I went there, and I went there early before it got dark, because I didn't want to be walking around in the dark in the streets of Guayaquil, because it's known to be pretty dangerous, and it was more dangerous then, I think, as well. So I went to that hotel and pretty much locked myself inside, just got some crackers and got some water and whatnot, and watched the news. And there was a news story about they pulled over a truck with some boxes in it, and they cut up in a box and it had body parts in it, that kind of stuff going on. And then at night I heard someone scream and then fall in the hotel, so I don't know what happened either, but I was just ready to get out of there.